Okay, we're going to get going. Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar sponsored by Google, Going One-to-One with Google in Education at Hillsborough Township Public Schools. We have a couple of speakers here today. We have Cassie Caputo of Google in Education. We've got Joel Handler, Director of Technology of Hillsborough Township Public Schools. And joining Joel, we also have Alyssa Green and Jennifer Harmson, who are teachers at the school. Before we get things going, I want to do a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, so you will get, we're going to be posting the recording on our website in our archived folder shortly after the webinar. You will also get a follow-up email within 48 business hours or 48 hours with a copy of the slides from today's presentation and a link to the recording of this presentation. Additionally, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A panel in the lower right-hand side of your screen. We will be using those for the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things off to Cassie. So Cassie, you're good to go.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Great to meet you. My name is Cassie Caputo, and I'm on the Google and Education team. And I'll start off by doing an overview of Google and Education, and then I'll hand it off to Joel with Hillsborough. So 60%. Here on the Google for Education team, we think about this number a lot. But what is 60%? So 60% is the amount of students today who will have jobs that don't yet exist. So if you think about it, many of the tech roles that you and I have didn't exist when we were in school. When I was a student, for example, there was no Google for Education, and Chromebooks and tablets didn't even exist yet. So this isn't just true of tech roles. Many non-tech roles have changed dramatically as well, generally as a result of the adoption of technology. So the way we research, collaborate, and disseminate information has already evolved and will continue to change. So conventional thinking on education is no longer enough and needs to change as well. So we need to teach our kids the tools to be successful. So how to collaborate and research, organize information, and formulate an argument. So in many ways, technology has already transformed the way we experience the world. And this slide shows a few examples. So the first image shows one of our Google schools, Fort Sam Houston in Texas, that serves a very heavy military population. They chose to use Google Apps and Chromebooks because it enabled their parents to stay connected to their students' work, even when they were deployed overseas. So technology also allows students to explore the world, so all while staying in the classroom. So for instance, students can take virtual field trips through connected classrooms and visit places like the Seattle Aquarium or the Minnesota Zoo. Or through the Google Art Project, students can zoom in on Georges Seurat's A Sunday on Le Grand Jatte and see the details that led to the pointillism movement without actually traveling to the Art Institute of Chicago. Or we can travel to the Galapagos and learn about sea turtles through map treks. So technology is enabling students to discover a world's worth of information outside of what the four walls of a classroom or the covers of an encyclopedia can even cover. So what can we do to help transform education? So Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So here in the Google for Education team, we believe that open technology is the key to improving education. So what does it mean for a school to go Google? We asked our Google schools, and they told us it's about more than technology. Going Google means adopting a culture that extends beyond the classroom walls. It's about openness, curiosity, and working together. So based on that quote, we came up with 4 tenets for what it means to go Google. So empowerment, helping students discover a world of infinite resources. Choice, being able to use the right device anytime, anywhere. It's about teamwork, having students, teachers, and parents able to work together in real time. And scalability, so bringing in technology that is affordable and easy to manage. We'll take a couple minutes to talk more about each of these. So first, empowerment. When you have access to digital content, it empowers students and gives teachers the tools for individualized learning. So it's important to help students to discover that world of infinite resources and change the role of the teacher from the lecturer who disseminates the information for the students to the facilitator who coaches and supports students as they explore the information accessible to them and solve real-world problems. So second, Google believes in giving schools choice. So the ability to use the right device anytime, anywhere. Because what good is information if it isn't accessible in the classroom? Teachers can only change the way they teach if students have reliable and secure access to a device. So we want teachers and students to use the right device, whether that be a laptop, tablet, phone, or desktop, and to be able to use the device in the school, at home, or on the go. Basically, we want the technology to get out of the way, so students and teachers can focus on the content and working together. So with that in mind, Google Solutions work on many platforms. So next, Going Google is about teamwork. Through Google Drive, multiple students are able to work in the same doc or presentation or spreadsheet at the same time. Collaboration like this fosters teamwork, problem solving, and organization, key skills for the modern world. Teachers say that being able to work together in real time using Google Apps is the most profound change in the way they teach, in the way students learn. So finally, Going Google is about scale, having technology that is affordable and easy to manage. With a school's budget, the price of the device does matter, since low-cost solutions give more students an opportunity to go Google. But scalability in device and content management are equally important to keep total cost of ownership low, and to allow IT teams to manage the surge in device deployments at a school. Google makes devices that are quick and easy to set up and manage. So with Google Apps as a foundation, it's easy to manage 10 or 10,000 devices with our admin tools. So you can set up a whole classroom of tablets or Chromebooks in just a few minutes. Because devices are intuitive to use, the students can get started with them quickly. So no need to run around troubleshooting devices in every classroom. And with 24/7 online and phone support, Google can help out if there are any challenges. So this sort of offering means that you can easily scale your IT. So technology can transform education, but let's not forget about the real change requiring people, and people need to help with that change. So one thing that Google does is to make the technology get out of the way by making it simple and secure, and by making it seamless across the core platform, the devices to access that platform, and the content you access through those devices. So how can a school start to go Google? So we offer schools a free suite of services called Google Apps for Education. These apps include Gmail as your email service provider and things like docs, spreadsheets, and presentations for content creation. Since Google Apps are all web-based, it means that they're available from any device with a web browser, and that they have centralized web-based management where you can create users and adjust settings. So as web-based applications, Google Apps for Education are also great for collaborating because multiple people can create and edit at the same time. And not only are Google Apps a powerful transformative platform for schools, the price is right. The Google Apps for Education is 100% free, without ads, and schools own and control their data. And to date, we have over 30 million Google Apps for Education users, found in 180 different countries. So we also help schools to go Google through devices. So Chromebooks are web-based computers that are great for schools because they're easy to use, easy to manage, easy to customize, and easy to scale. So when you're using Chromebooks, everything is stored on the web, and so it doesn't matter which machine you're using. With Chromebooks, the focus isn't on the technology, it's on the user. So when your students sign into any Chromebook, they're taken to the learning experience that you've designed for them based on your curriculum goals. The idea is for the technology to seem invisible in the classroom, just another tool in the class. Chromebooks are great because they're incredibly simple to use for both students and faculty. So Chromebook adopters say they love the devices because they just work. And they'll continue to just work because the devices are web-based, so nothing's stored on the device itself, meaning it's impossible to catch a virus, and you'll never need to wipe or re-image devices. We've designed Chromebooks for education to be practically invisible in the classroom. So we believe that the technology should be a tool to help you teach, but nobody's going to use that tool if it's too difficult or too time-consuming. So Chromebooks have a battery life that lasts all day, and they boot up in 8 seconds or less. So your teachers can spend more of their valuable classroom time on instruction and not waiting for the technology to work. Chromebooks are also affordable. So with some devices starting as low as $249 and the management license as low as $30. So we have a number of different options for devices, and the prices do all vary. And the management software makes it easy to manage 10 or 10,000 devices. As web-based devices, all of the management takes place within one online interface where you can adjust security controls, device settings, and the user experience. So let's talk a bit more about the management experience, because it's one of the critical differences with Chromebooks compared to other devices out there in the market. So Chromebooks shift the model away from the old way of managing devices where you have to touch each and every device to install software locally, to set up antivirus controls, and to wipe and re-image devices every year. So with Chromebooks, you can manage all of your devices through one centralized web page called the Management Console. Here, you're able to control device settings and set security controls on all of your computers. So for example, you can require that your students route through your proxy, regardless of where they're signed into their Chromebook. You can specify who can use your devices, potentially locking it down so that only your students and faculty can use your Chromebooks. You can also easily push web-based applications out to your students through just a few clicks. And all the controls with the Chromebook Management Console enable you to create a secure testing environment, which makes Chromebooks approved for PARC and smarter balance testing. Chromebooks also have multiple layers of security built into the device, including sandboxing and verified boot. And as web-based devices, they're secure against malware and viruses. So in order to use the Management Console, you'll need to purchase a one-time license, which is right around $30. And you'll need one license for every Chromebook that you have. And we're now offering a wide range of Chromebooks. So the hardware specs on each of these devices differs a little bit. They vary in terms of screen size, ports, weight, etc. But all of them are running the Chrome operating system, which means that no matter what device that you log into, you'll have the same experience. And all of them are managed through your Google Apps for Education account by using the Chromebook management license. So despite the differences in the hardware, the user experience and the management experience will be the exact same across all devices. So Google provides a wealth of online applications available through the Chrome Web Store. There are thousands of applications that span different subject matters and different grade levels. So these are all web-based applications that can be used on Chromebooks as well as in the Chrome browser on other devices. So through the Chromebook Management Console, you're able to find apps, push them to your users for the next time that they sign into the device, helping to shape the classroom experience they have when using their devices. So in addition to Chromebooks, last fall, Google expanded our offering to include tablets with Google Play for Education, a program that is open to K-12 schools in the U.S. Our team worked with schools to ensure that this solution of devices, content, and management was truly designed for learning and made for the classroom. So some of the key benefits of the Google Play for Education program is that we made it easy for schools to deploy tablet devices into the classroom, to discover strong educational content for their teachers and students, and to deliver those apps, videos, and books to the right users. So to gain access to all these great deployment discovery and delivery features, you'll need tablets approved for Google Play for Education. So at this point, we have one tablet available immediately, which is the Nexus 7. And over the next few weeks, we'll also have an HP Slate, and the Asus Transformer, and the new Samsung Galaxy. So those are coming out in the upcoming weeks. So with all these devices, you'll also need that management license that will provide you the access to set up the application for deploying devices with access to the Play for EDU site. So the next few slides, I'll cover a little bit more on that. So the Google Play for EDU license allows you an easy deployment where you can set up an entire classroom in just minutes. So to do so, you'll set up one tablet as your administrator tablet, and then choose a student account, pick up the other tablet, and touch it to the administrator tablet. So you bump the tablets together. Through near-field communication, your student tablets are set up in a matter of minutes. So once the devices are set up, students will sign into their Google Apps for EDU with their Google Apps for EDU login info. So having a device is not enough, though. So schools also need strong educational content to use and an easy way to find it. So there are over 1 million apps in the general Google Play Store. With your license for Google Play for EDU, you also gain access to the Play for Education site. So here you're able to discover apps to use on your tablets that are great for the classroom because they've been vetted and approved by other educators. And there are a couple ways to discover apps on the site. So first, you can filter for specific apps by setting a criteria like subject, grade level, or Common Core standard, and whether or not the app is free or paid. And when you filter like this, you're finding apps that have been teacher approved for the classroom. The second way to find content is to search with the search bar at the top. So if you type in a keyword like subtraction in the search bar at the top, you'll find apps approved by teachers as well as apps from the over 1 million options in the Google Play Store. So once you find an app, you can click on it to find more details. There will be an app description as well as up to 3 different badges. An EDU badge signifies that the app was approved by educators who reviewed it for quality. An in-app free badge signifies that the app does not allow purchases within the app, and also the ad-free badge, indicating that the app does not contain advertisements. So when you found an app that you want for your students and teachers, the Play for EDU site makes it easy to deliver. To send an app, simply click on the app, select the number of licenses that you need, and select the student's Google Apps for EDU username, or you can use a Google group that you'd like to send to indicate the group of students you'd like to send the app to. Then the app will automatically be added to those students' tablets. They'll actually be able to see it installing right before their eyes. Many of the apps are free, but if the app has a cost associated with it, you can purchase using a PO. So you can update the quantity of license that you'd like. The total cost will automatically update, and you can pull against a blanket PO that your school has added to your Play for EDU site. In addition to Android apps, we recently expanded on our content available to schools by adding book rentals to Google Play for EDU. So the Play site contains a wide range of books, including some of my favorites, like James and the Giant Peach and The Bridge to Terabithia, but also textbooks like Hutton Mifflin's Go Math and Journey's Common Core. So these books rented through the Google Play site, you're purchasing limited time access, generally from 60 to 360 days, and you assign the book to a specific student's username. This helps keep the material fresh and interesting, and you can study the books that your teachers and students are interested in and not be obligated to teach the ones that you happen to have in the supply cabinet from several years ago. Once a book is assigned to a username, that student can read it at school or at home on any device when they're using a Google Play reader. So they can take notes, look up vocabulary, and even translate foreign languages right from the Google Play reader. And when they log into the next device, they'll be able to pick up right where they left off. So with Google Play for Education, you can also discover approved YouTube videos. So when you type in a keyword in the search bar of Google Play for Education, videos aimed at K-12 are returned as part of the results. So all the videos are approved on the YouTube for EDU channels. And you can send these to students and to Google Groups. So as mentioned, there are tens of thousands of apps in the Google Play Store. So in addition to providing you with curated content, we wanted to help you get started with finding the top tools for students. So this 75 apps for your class is a free online presentation that highlights teacher tools, student tools, and literacy apps. So the sort of apps that every teacher needs. So if you jot down the short link right there, you can access it online. So educators often ask where they can find apps that will help them be more productive, or they're looking for tools that students can use to create and research and analyze and communicate. So you'll find thousands of these in the Google Play for Education site, and this presentation, again, if you jot down the short link there, will help you get started. And at this point, I want to turn over the presentation to Joel Handler, and he'll take it from here.
Hi. Thank you very much, Cassie. My name is Joel Handler. I'm the Director of Technology here in the Hillsborough Township Public Schools. And just to give you a little bit of background on Hillsborough, we are located in central New Jersey. We have about 7,300 students, about 1,000 staff. We're 9 schools. We're a public school district. We have 6 K-4 schools, each with about 400 to 500 students. We have 1 5-6 intermediate school. We have 1 7-8 middle school, and we have 1 9 through 12. We have so our larger schools or older schools, they're kind of large, but that gives us a lot of possibilities. But yet we're small enough that we still have that flexibility. So everything we do in technology is geared around our technology vision and our technology goals. So our main vision is the idea of this culture shift, that we're seeing technology now used as part of the everyday norm. I always like to describe it best as people don't get excited anymore about using their cell phone. You don't like pick up a new cell phone and say, oh, I'm going to make a phone call. Oh, wow, this is great. All right, look, I can browse the internet. It's just part of the norm. It's just part of the normal culture. You just pick it up, you just use it. And that's what we're starting to see now in our schools, is this idea of a culture shift where technology is not a special thing anymore, and it shouldn't be. It's a tool to get the job done. And it should just be part of the everyday norm that you use it. The second thing as part of our vision is to look at the idea of a one-to-one program where students have that technology available to them all the time, so that's used when it's needed. And again, that goes in line with the idea of the culture shift. That is part of the everyday norm. It's not a special thing. And then finally, what we're seeing now as a result and what we're looking to do is transform the classroom and go from traditional teaching styles where 90% of the time the classroom was teacher directed, where the teacher stood in front of the room, they would talk, traditional classrooms of the past 100 years, to this idea of a transformative classroom where students learn at their level, at their pace, and the teacher's there as a guide, as a person to help them kind of move through that. So those are our technology visions that we here in Hillsborough hold. To achieve those, we have 3 goals, and everything we do in technology must meet these 3 goals. And that is asynchronous learning, the idea that students learn not always at the time they're sitting in class, but can learn at any time. And so we want to make it so that they can learn at home, they can learn on the bus, they can learn in school, and any combination thereof. The second one is globalizing the curriculum, and that is, and I know Kathy talked about this earlier, where having students going out to external resources such as museums or speaking with authors or scientists around the world. So the idea of globalizing curriculum, we're bringing that outside world and taking down the 4 walls of the classroom and getting them out of the way, and the technology is what's helping us do that. And finally, the idea of the creation, collaboration, and publication of digital content. This, to me, is one of the most important goals, the idea that students working together collaboratively, because in the real world, people don't work independently. In schools, students, work traditional style schools. Students work on papers independently. Students do their own thing. They turn it in. It's all done in this little isolated bubble. And as soon as they leave and they go off to the real world, they work in groups. People don't work in the real world in isolated bubbles. They work collaboratively with each other. And so that's something that we see the technology as being a key component of that. So in Hillsborough, we kind of built this idea of a technology for learning and building that infrastructure. And we've done this over the past 4 years. We put projectors and sound field systems in every classroom 3 years ago. We provided our staff with laptops so that they have access to technology to start building that culture shift where, going back earlier where I talked about, it's just part of the norm. And then finally, we put in ubiquitous wireless and increased our bandwidth to be able to accommodate for all these devices. So that was the first steps to kind of building the infrastructure. And then we started looking at the idea of one-to-one. And we started 3 years ago in 2011 and 12. And we looked at small one-to-one pilots in just 4 classes. We looked at different tablet devices, and we just had 4 classes just as an idea. Let's see what this can do for us. Finding success in the program, we then last school year went to 10% of our students in grades 5 through 12. We looked at different devices again. That year was the first year we actually looked at Chromebooks. That's when they started becoming more available. Then the following year, in 2013, 2014, or this school year, because of the success of last year's, the success of the Chromebooks in particular, we went to 20% of our students all with Chromebooks, and that's in grades 5 through 12. And finally, our projected goal is for the next school year, we're planning to do 100% of our students in grades 5 through 12, all with Chromebooks. In the meantime, at our K-4 space, over the past few years, we've been increasing the number of Chromebooks in the classrooms as we slowly phase out older traditional computers. And we looked at Chromebooks on carts that were shared in our younger grades. And then one of the things we looked at last year and we went forward with was we did a complete one-to-one program with Nexus 7s as one of Google's pilot schools. And every one of our students now in grades K through 4 has a tablet that is stored in their classroom that they use throughout the day. What's very interesting about all of these one-to-one classes that we have is we always get the question of, is this too much for the kids? They're always on these devices. And the answer is no. They use them as tools, just like they would use a paper and a pencil. We don't ever go to the students and say, well, you're using too much paper and pencil. Let's take that away. Or, well, that's too much textbook. Oh, let's put that away. It's a tool. We use it throughout the day. And it's very interesting to walk into these rooms and you see the students with the devices out. They'll have paper and pencil out. They'll have books out and using whatever device is very appropriate. And what's really cool is when you go to our K-4 classrooms where we have Chromebooks that are shared amongst a couple of the rooms, and then all the students have one-to-one devices, you see the students using the device that best meets their needs at that time. So if they're doing research, they'll be picking up the tablet. If they're typing a paper, they may be doing it on the tablet, they may be doing it on the Chromebook. And you'll see students working in groups where there's 2 or 3 of them all sitting around, or about 3 or 4 of them actually sitting around a table. One has a Chromebook maybe working on typing something while the other 2 or 3 in that group are literally on their tablets doing research, and they're copying and they're all working together. It's really an amazing sight to see. So why Google Apps is the foundation? We switched to Google Apps about 4 years ago. We started piloting with it. We fully jumped in, well, talking about the pilots a little bit, we first started with, we just kind of rolled it out and said, you know, it's there, you can use it, especially the collaboration. That's what really sold us on it, the idea that students can work simultaneously at the same time. A teacher can be working in that same document with the student, either in real time or later at home, and we've seen that as well. So that really was kind of sold us. So it was about 4 years ago we rolled it out. Actually, it was 2009, so actually I guess it's 5 years ago now. And we rolled it out, and we started seeing it really taking off in our literacy classes more than anywhere else. That was kind of the first thing. And it wasn't a requirement. We kind of integrated it with our existing logins, so it was easy access, and we just kind of said it was there. It was around 2012, last school year, that we fully jumped in and said, this is our main suite. We switched our email to it and said, this is what we now fully support as our main productivity suite. But why did we do that? Really, the collaboration was the first selling point. Second thing was we were looking at the costs of running traditional computing models where Google Apps is free for us. That made a big difference. and really the anytime, anywhere access. We started seeing students bringing in their own cell phones, teachers having their own devices, students having their own devices, being able to access it in school and at home, before we had even one-to-one, and having that same environment, not different versions of different software. That was huge. An interesting note was last year during, we live in the Northeast where Hurricane Sandy hit New Jersey really hard, and we were out here in the district for over a week. And we were one of the only districts in the area that had constant communication via email with each other, because we also had Google supporting our email chain. And actually, very interestingly, our township has just recently switched as a result of that, because they saw the power of that as well. And several other districts in the area also saw that. So why did we decide to go with Chromebooks and tablets in K-4 and Chromebooks in 5 through 12? Well, what we found with the tablets in the lower grades is that it's that tactile interface, the fact that students can manipulate them with their fingers, they can play these interactive games, they can work on documents, they can research, and they're great for reading devices. But as we got to the upper grades, what we really saw was tablets were good for those things, but there was something about the traditional work model of a laptop that really was needed at the upper grades. The idea that I needed a keyboard at times to really be able to type papers and to work on the more advanced spreadsheets and presentations, which though can be done with a tablet, it's just not as easy. One of the things we're really excited to see is as we go towards that 5 through 12 space next year in full one-to-one, we're seeing some of the Chromebooks now coming out with touchscreen interfaces, and we're really excited about that. So you kind of get the best of both worlds in those areas, and that's kind of where we at Hillsboro are leaning towards. And the idea that both of these devices really do allow the ability for student-paced learning and student-directed learning, whereas you can differentiate the instruction. We've seen that time and time again where we can start to pair these students up, and students who need more work with the teachers, well, they can, the teacher may pull a group of those students aside while other students are meanwhile moving on, whether it's using some sort of video collaboration tool or video just online or working on research. So it's very interesting that these tools allow that flexibility in the classroom. So some of the findings that we're seeing from students, the biggest one is just excitement level. Students are so much more interested in these classrooms where we have the devices being used on a regular basis. To continue with that, what we're finding is it's not so much excitement that, wow, I got a device. That slips away after about a month in these one-to-one classrooms. Initially we give these devices out and it's like, whoa, look at this cool devices, we got them every day. And then all of a sudden after about a month, it's kind of just, it's part of the norm. But we still see that the excitement and the engagement in students is there even after the thrill of having a device all the time at your access kind of fizzles away. Organizational skills have been hugely observed in terms of the benefit from the devices. We've actually seen some students having academic increases because it's those students that, and we all know there's a few students like that where they walk in your room and somehow they have papers always falling out of their binder. They don't know where anything is. The dog ate their homework last night. They don't even have a dog and yet they ate their homework last night. And those students, we've seen a huge uptick in their ability to stay organized with these devices because everything is always there. And it's always accessible as they need it. Definitely a lot more collaborative writing. Students are writing significantly more than before. There's something about the technology that they love to participate in, whether it's online forums, whether it's writing, papers or writing documents. They just are writing more than without the devices. That's been time and time again we've seen. Definitely things with a lot more video and presentations happening. As well as studying habits. A very interesting story was with our one-to-one rollouts, one of our teachers, one day was teaching with his class, and the first 15 or so minutes he was kind of doing a group instruction, and he was having the students break into groups. So the first 15 minutes he's kind of lecturing to the students, kind of going over some materials, and he sees he happens to be walking around the room while he's doing that, and he sees this one student with 3 students on that same document, and he kind of looks and kind of, as he's walking around, he's teaching, he's not thinking anything of it, or he's thinking of it, but he's not doing anything about it. And he goes to the other students, and he's kind of seeing on their screens that they're all working on the same document. So he finishes up his lessoning, and then he goes over and then kind of breaks the class, and they all break into groups to continue their working collaboratively. And he goes over to one of those students and says, and taps him on the shoulder and says, I'll see you after school for detention. And the student literally looked up at him and says, well, what did I do wrong? He says, you guys weren't paying attention. You guys were you guys were typing away at each other, and you guys weren't paying attention. You were all chatting. And the student looked up at him and said, no, we were actually taking notes together. We were working, I was writing down everything you were talking about. And, you know, the other student, I don't remember the names, but the other student he was there, he was kind of noting everything that you were saying, and the other student was kind of writing everything down, making notes of what you were writing on the board, and we were doing it collaboratively. He looked, and sure enough, that's exactly what they were doing, and that was his aha moment to realize the power of this technology. And we have that time and time again where all of a sudden these students show such creativity and such ingenious ways of using the technology to further their learning that it just keeps, every week I find new things that I'm just blown away by. Another thing we're finding from students is the idea that they're collaborating a lot more and communicating with each other. One of the fears we had going into this was that students would not be, you know, people become sucked into their devices, they're constant, you know, they're no longer talking to each other, and what we found is from the teachers and from the students that there's more, they feel more connected this year having devices, and those in the pilots last year, than they did without the devices. That the devices are actually bringing students and teachers together more than without. Finally, the teachers, what we're seeing from them is a lot more of a shift to this idea of paperless, that, you know, everything's organized electronically, it's easy access, a lot more use of instant feedback tools. We started looking at different software packages such as like MoveNote and BlendSpace, where students can kind of present or be given material to look at, a lot more video, self-paced learning strategies being used a lot more. And a big thing that we're seeing from the technology, an overall arching benefit, is this idea of leveling the playing field, of access or ubiquitous access for all students, regardless of economic, you know, their economic situation. So that we're kind of seeing that very much, and we're starting to now look at things such as flipping the classroom, having students doing a lot more learning outside the classroom and coming back in and working, you know, with the teacher as need be, and the teacher being able to monitor that. So definitely seeing a lot more of those kind of dynamic classroom changes happening now. And these things, what we found in terms of our rollouts is, as we go towards a one-to-one, it's usually the first month or so, everybody's kind of like, what's going on? Then the students start to become comfortable after about a month. And the teachers are still kind of hesitant. And then all of a sudden, about 5 or 6 months into it, there's a light bulb switch from the teacher's point of view, and they say, wait a second, this is really an amazing tool. And it's time and time again, we've seen it with every one of our pilot teachers, which usually about a 6-month period of using it, that all of a sudden they start to shift, and they all of a sudden realize the power and move forward with that. Looking at support, this is huge. We've built up a support model in the district to ensure that we can support these devices. We have timely and targeted training, as we always like to say. We have tech coaches during the day. We have 2 of them for our district who are always available for teachers whenever they need help. Anytime, you know, if a teacher says, I'm just not getting something, they'll meet with you during your lunch period, they'll meet with you during your prep period, they'll come into a class and help co-teach a lesson. Their goals are always to make sure the staff are learning the technology so the staff can then train, you know, or work with our students. And then we have before and after school training. Last year with Hurricane Sandy, we ended up losing a couple of our in-service days, and one of them got bumped to the end of the school year. So rather than making teachers come in, and it happened to be the technology day, which made it even worse. So rather than having the teachers come in at the end of the school year, after school's out, to teach them on technology that they'll not use in the classroom for 3 months, we said that seems like such a waste of time. So we developed this idea of a turnkey program where we allow teachers, we have turnkey trainers, they're paid a small stipend throughout the year, and they teach classes before and after school outside of hours. The rest of the staff take these classes, and provided that they take 6 hours of classes, they can then be exempt from coming in on the in-service day. This has been huge because it allows teachers to be trained on technology at a time that's appropriate for them, when it's appropriate for them to use it in the classroom, and it's convenient for them, and they can implement it right away. Rather than, well, we're not going to have a technology in service till November, so you are going to have to wait till November, and then the teacher learns something that really doesn't apply to them until January, February. Well, by then they've already forgotten it. So definitely providing that kind of support has been huge. Building those expectations of usage Again, we don't tell our teachers that they will be using these devices 24/7, but the expectation is that the devices will be used to supplement and support the educational model. And it becomes this grassroots movement of we just kind of use them. It's just part of our norm, and it's used on a daily basis now, just because it's there and it's the power behind it, not because of any kind of administrative edict or requirement. So to kind of wrap up, the keys to our success have been building that clear vision and defining the goals right up front. We did that years ago. We built that strong technology infrastructure to be able to support the technology rollout that we've done. We've rolled in this idea of timely and targeted training to ensure that staff have all the resources they need to be successful. One thing I didn't talk about, which has been huge for us, and that is the idea of encouraging and trying the risk-taking. We tell our teachers that we do expect them to fail at times. You know, they know going into this that, you know, every lesson you do will not be a success, and that's okay. And actually, if you don't fail at some lessons, it means you're not really trying. If every one of your lessons goes off without a hitch and that means you haven't pushed yourself. You haven't tried something new. You haven't tried something different. So we definitely encourage the idea of trying and risk-taking. It doesn't mean every day you're going to, you know, come in and, you know, today I'm going to try doing some brand new technology that I've never heard of before every single day. No. But definitely we want teachers to try new things and see what's successful and what's not, and kind of build up their skills as they're going. And finally, of course, as we've gone along, we keep taking feedback and evolving our program from all stakeholders, students, staff, parents, just the community at large, board members, administrators, everyone involved. And our program has evolved. We have actually feedback programs from parents who are involved in the pilot programs. We have feedback from parents who are not. We have started parent technology nights for parents as well, where they can come and learn a little bit what's going on in technology. We've done one so far. We'll be doing another one next month. So these are kind of programs that we put in place to kind of really build up the entire ecosystem here in Hillsboro to make it a successful program. So at that, I'll turn it back over to Liz.
Okay, we've got a couple questions coming in. The first question, I got a lot of these questions, so I thought instead of answering individually to them, that I'd have Cassie or you even question, but people were asking, are the Google Apps for Education compatible with iPads?
So I can take that one. So yes, Google Apps for Education are compatible with any platform so long as you have access to the web. So they're entirely web-based, so that means you can access Google Apps from any device with a web connection.
And I mean, I guess a follow-up question to that, just out of curiosity, so they would just go to the Google Play Store through the web, and then they'd have to use those apps through the web. Unlike Android-based products, they couldn't like download the app onto it, correct?
Yes. So there's an app version for in like the iTunes store, if that's what you use for iPads, and then in the Google Play Store for Android tablets. You can also access Google Apps in just any web browser as well.
Okay.
Actually, seeing just kind of back up on that, piggyback on that. We actually have students in our K-4. They don't take their devices home, and in 512, who are not part of the one-to-one pilot, we use Google Apps as our normal. You know, that's what we use. Students go home and they'll use them on whatever devices they have at their house in terms of their personal computers, their tablets, their smartphones even.
Okay, and this one's probably for Joel. Does your district have a Google Apps for Education domain name?
Yes. Yes.
And I guess, is that easy to set up and everything?
Yeah, it was, if Google makes it pretty simple. You go to their website, they have the procedure right there. I mean, we did it 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, I guess it is, 4 or 5 years ago. The process hasn't changed much. You have to do a verification letter with them, and you know, Cassie, you might be able to expand on that more. But it was a very simple process. There was no fee to set it up. once it's there. We did ours with Active Directory integration, so once we got the domain name, we have it syncing with our existing student accounts so that we didn't need to change, have students have other logins and so forth. One of the big things that we do with our Google Apps domain, and this has kind of driven technology decisions now moving forward in terms of curriculum applications and what tools we're going to use besides Google Apps itself, is we are very big on looking at only software packages and apps that integrate with the Google login. One of the big things we found with our pilots were when we looked at tablet devices that didn't integrate, or just apps in general that don't integrate it, students have so many different passwords and teachers have so many different passwords, it became a nightmare. So one of our requirements is always either whatever package we're looking at either integrates with Active Directory for login authentication, or it integrates right with the Google Apps login directly.
And then more on the actual process for setting up. So going to google.com/a/edu, or just doing a quick search for Google Apps for Education will take you to the site. And the site walks you through the entire process. So whether your setup is completely brand new and you're coming from a fresh start, you can even purchase a domain name on the way. Or like Joel said, with Active Directory, there's all the tools and guidelines that you could need for any kind of setup available right there as you go through the setup process.
For Joel, mostly, how are the older teachers, like 25+ years of teaching, accepting of this new model?
Well, I'll turn it to our teachers here, and I'll let them kind of answer that a little bit.
Yes, well, I've been teaching for 23 years and wanted to be a part of the pilot program and, simply to keep up with the technology, but also to increase my own learning and be willing to change with the times. We have to be willing as professionals ourselves to change, experiment, try something new, and lead our students into the future. So it really wasn't a problem at all. It's, in fact, you could probably talk to anybody in our district who's been teaching a while, and they all have are quite excited about the program and now have developed an affinity toward technology.
And I mean, I completely agree as well, and have found that at the start of the program, when we began everything with the new tablets and Chromebooks, that teachers were definitely overwhelmed with getting all these new devices. But over time, when they saw how excited and engaged their students were, and how in the end it really made everything easier for them, whether it was having a class site or being able to push documents to students and not have to copy things, they found that a lot of different components to this program just made everything for them easier as well. And they learned that, it was something that they had to overcome at first with all everything new going on, but in the end it was easier and it was more exciting for them to find out all these new things that they can do, and definitely very exciting for the students as well.
Yeah, I'd say two important things in terms of our rollout. One was we gave the devices and didn't say you had to use it every day, all day long. We gave the devices and we supplied the training, and we said we have resources for you and we expect usage over time. We didn't jump in full feet and say everybody has to use it all day long, you have to teach now from your projector, done. No, we didn't do that. And then we supply, like I said, the training models. And actually what's very interesting is it's the most senior teacher, the most senior teachers is the wrong way to look at it. What we find is some of our senior teachers are more capable with the devices than some of our new teachers, because what we find is people coming out of college don't necessarily know good teaching. They may know how to use Facebook, great, but that doesn't mean they know how to use technology in the classroom. And conversely, we have more senior teachers who know teaching really well, and they may not know Facebook really great, but using these devices, having students using these devices, really they start to see the power of that. And so it's really, it really is, to make that stereotype of doesn't really apply. And actually at this point now, most of our staff are in support of the program, and most resistant staff tend to, after several months of using it, become our biggest supporters. And I can name about 5 or 6 people who kind of went into the one-to-one almost kicking and screaming, saying they didn't want to do it, but because their teammates were doing it, their team was doing it, they had to. And now they turn around and say, you can't take this away from me. It's the greatest thing, and they're actually the biggest proponents, so very interestingly.
Okay. Sorry, one comment, by the way, apparently the URL on this last page doesn't work. Or at least, and I just tried and I couldn't get it to work, just FYI. People want to know, where do they learn how to use the management console?
So there's two options. So we have a couple recorded demos, which are shorter, just kind of walkthroughs. So there's actually kind of two, depending on where you're at. So there's a demo for learning how to use the management console for Google Apps and for Chromebooks. And then there's a simple just demo about the Chromebook settings within the management console. And then there's a weekly webinar that goes into how to use the tools a little bit that you can find on our Google and EDU site. So if you're already using Google Apps for education, the admin console or the management console for Chromebooks is just an added layer of settings to that same management console. So you'll already know how to use the tool, so it'll probably be a good idea just to check out the Chrome management settings, which is a short video on YouTube. And then if you're not familiar with Google Apps or Chromebooks at all, you might want to check out the longer demo on the Google Apps and Chromebooks management console. And then again, there's that weekly webinar.
Okay, Pete, this is for Joel. People are wondering, you're like, what is like the breakage rate for the tablets and Chromebooks in your school?
So right now we have or second generation Samsung and Acer Chromebooks. We were averaging about a 20 to 30% breakage rate last year, and we're seeing about that again this year. One of the big things we're doing as we go towards one-to-one in our district, our goal is to build the budget in such a way that's sustainable without these kind of, big purchases and then little purchases, and then all of a sudden a few years later you get this big thing that's very difficult to swallow. So we're trying to work ours into a lease purchase, which is what we did for the staff laptops very successfully. And with that, along the way, we kind of planned it with support. So we're looking at different insurance options to help sustain that as well, and spread them over basically spread the cost over 4 years, the life of the device, with support over the 4 years, so that it's a complete package, and we kind of just move forward that way. And it creates a very stable budget, and it creates a very predictable budget. Also, one thing we asked, and one other thing in terms of damage rates. We see a huge increase in damage rates once the devices are going home versus the ones that stay in carts. Sorry, we'll put that out there as well. The one on carts, the damage rates are not that significant, nothing different than anything else. But once you bring them home, that's where it goes from your a few percentages up to 20, 30%, 20, 25%. I'd say I think last year we were closer to 30%. This year we're looking about 25%.
Okay. What happens if you don't have internet connection? Do Chromebooks store anything on the book itself? Is there anything that can be done offline?
Cassie, I'll talk to our experiences here on that, if you don't mind. So the Chromebooks do work offline for certain things, such as docs, and I think presentations now may work offline. I know docs does definitely. And so students will be able to work on certain things offline. They obviously can't get to the internet, they can't get to YouTube, stuff like that, which is part of our curriculum resources and video resources. Those things they won't be able to access. But basic docs they can access if it's materials that they're to read that night. Those things they can easily download offline. The Chromebook does support offline mode where they can download those docs and use them. And I know we have a few students in those situations where either they're they don't have internet access at home, or they're going to, let's say, a football game after school, or they're on the team, so they're using the devices that way. And then have you seen?
Well, I have a student now who does not have internet access, and he ends up going to the municipal library in town to get access, but also does a lot of work offline. And it works fine. It works seamlessly, so it's really not a problem.
Someone wanted to know if Blackboard works with Google for Education. And someone also wanted to know if WebEx works with Chromebooks. So it's a two-part question.
So WebEx requires a locally installed application, so it doesn't currently work with Chromebooks right now, because we're trying to keep it in line with the access anytime, anywhere. So even just something as small as a locally installed like plugin will then make it so that you can't hop onto the next device and keep going. So I know that we're seeing the trend of more of these tools being built for the web as more devices are being built for the web. So I think that'll be, to be determined. So hopefully down the road, WebEx will be available. And then Blackboard, if it's entirely web-based and there's no like locally installed plugins needed, then it will work on a Chromebook.
And we're getting close to the end, but I have one question, and I think all three people in Joel's room can answer this. After the switch over, what did you miss most from the PC world?
I can't think of anything, to be honest with you. I mean, I only use a Chromebook myself. All staff have laptops, Windows laptops with Office, but I personally only use a Chromebook myself.
I was on a Mac, and using in college at least using Microsoft, and so it was actually a little bit annoying to me that I always had to email myself my most recent, if I was switching from devices, from like the library to my personal laptop, I always had to email myself like version 1, like March 10th, like 10 a.m. and put the time and everything and just email it to myself multiple times every time I saved. So that was really frustrating to me. So then once I switched to Google Apps, it made life a lot easier for me.
What do you think?
I can't think of anything personally that I really miss. I feel like with Google, there's just so much that you can do, and anything that you would have done in Office, you can really pretty much do using Google Drive, if not even more, and just the fact that students can collaborate on projects now, and you can, comment on the students' work and push things to them, and they can access it now anywhere, whereas we couldn't really do that before. And like you said, I was always emailing myself different documents to have it on certain devices, and now it's just wherever they need it, they can access it. So I can't think of anything specific that I really miss.
Yeah, and I noticed one of the questions was, are there apps that are comparable to Microsoft? And there are. You can create a Google document, and you can create a Google presentation, which is like your PowerPoint. You can create a Google spreadsheet, a Google form, a Google drawing. So you have many of the same types of applications that you might be used to in the PC world. But what's also interesting for me, what I have found as a technology user both at home and in school, is that I feel like I know different methods. I know the Microsoft world and Office, and I know the Google world. And actually, you get kind of proud of that, for the fact that you realize that you can use so much of the technology, and that's why it's not going to be difficult to switch over to using devices, and if you choose to use the Google apps in your district, because technology is intuitive. And once you know certain things, you can figure out anything. You really can. And your experience all throughout these years will now help you in your transition over. and because of that intuitive nature of technology. So, you know, you may not get something right away, but eventually you will, you know, just because you just know things from past experience.
Interesting story I heard from one student the other day. She was going to school and she had a test going on later that day. She was telling me how she was using her cell phone. She has a smartphone, and she was looking at the presentation on her smartphone on the bus because she didn't want to take out her Chromebook, so she just had it up on her phone because she was just integrated. She had added her Google Drive account to her phone and was just looking at it on there. And it was just interesting to hear that, yeah, you're right. You have that connectivity from any device at any time. So, yeah, it was just an interesting use case that here a student just thought of, hey, I'm going to take out my phone and I'll access the document just the same as I would on my, you know, Chromebook or anything else. So.
And one question for Cassie. If people are asking if they have any questions on how to set up Google Apps Management or any of that stuff, who can they contact at Google for help with that?
So when you initially set up, there's a very simple walkthrough to help you out along the way. Then once you have just the initial part set up, you have access to support. So you can chat with the technical support team and email them or talk to them on the phone to help you through it.
Great. Okay, that's all we have time for today. I know I got a whole bunch of questions coming in, and don't worry if your question wasn't answered. I'm going to be giving the speakers today all the questions that were asked, so they can follow up with you if it's something that needs to be followed up with. But again, thank you very much for attending today. Again, this webinar was recorded, and we will be sending out a follow-up email in the next couple days with a copy of the slides from today's presentation and a link to the recording. If you have any questions, my email addresses will be in the follow-up email, so you can also email me questions if necessary. So have a great day, guys, and thank you again for coming.